You ever notice this? You have a friend or maybe a coworker who's just brilliant, but over time, they kind of start to fade from the social scene. They skip the big parties, their circle gets a little smaller, and honestly, they seem pretty happy about it. Okay, let's get into this, because the psychology behind it is absolutely fascinating.
It's a real head-scratcher, isn't it? We see these incredibly sharp minds, people we love talking to, and they just sort of withdraw. It happens all the time, which really makes you wonder, what is actually going on there?
You know, our first instinct is often to jump to conclusions. We might think, oh, it's arrogance, or maybe we worry that they're lonely, or we just write them off as antisocial. But the psychological reality, it's usually something way more interesting. It's about managing what's going on inside, a deep need for focus, a careful budget for their mental energy, and a real search for depth. Let's break that down.
So our first big idea here is this powerful and honestly pretty simple need for focus. And the key thing to get is that this isn't about being antisocial, it's about being pro-thinking.
Think about it like this. If your brain is constantly churning, trying to solve some complex puzzle or connect a bunch of different ideas, all that casual chit-chat can feel like static on the radio. You're trying to listen to this beautiful, complex piece of music, but there's this constant crackling in the background. It's not that the static is bad, it's just that it gets in the way of the main event.
So what kind of work are we talking about? Well, a highly analytical mind is pretty much never idle. It's always busy, analyzing complicated stuff, wrestling with difficult problems, imagining future scenarios, and connecting dots that nobody else sees. That kind of deep thinking, it just can't happen in 5-minute chunks between conversations. It needs long, uninterrupted stretches of time to really get going.
All right, let's move on to our next piece of the puzzle, because this builds on that last idea perfectly. It's what I like to call the mental energy equation. And this all comes down to a concept in psychology called cognitive load.
So, cognitive load, what is it? Put simply, it's the idea that your brain has a limited amount of processing power every single day. Every single thing you do, from figuring out what to have for lunch to solving a calculus problem, it uses up some of that finite resource. It's like you wake up with a full mental battery, and every task drains it a little bit.
And here's the kicker, the thing we almost always forget. Socializing is incredibly expensive for your brain. It's not some passive thing. You are constantly reading tiny social cues, figuring out the right thing to say, managing the back and forth, all while filtering out a million other distractions. For someone who's already using a huge chunk of their brain power on their inner world, socializing can just drain that mental battery super fast.
So it really just becomes a question of investment, right? If your biggest sense of achievement comes from cracking a problem or creating something totally new, you're naturally going to pour your limited mental energy into that. It's not personal, it's strategic. It's about prioritizing the stuff that gives you the highest intellectual and personal return.
This brings us right to our third big idea, a very deliberate shift toward quality over quantity when it comes to relationships. It's about deciding to stop casting a wide social net and to start nurturing a few really deep roots.
The entire focus just changes. It moves away from having tons of surface-level chats with a lot of acquaintances and zooms in on having deep, meaningful discussions with a few trusted friends. It's a total pivot from needing social validation to building real intellectual and emotional trust. Quality just completely trumps quantity.
And as people really develop that strong, independent way of thinking, the need for constant approval from everyone else just kind of fades away. The main source of satisfaction starts coming from the inside. It's the thrill of a discovery, the beauty of a new idea, the pure joy of solving a puzzle. It's not about getting a bunch of likes. It doesn't mean they don't like people. It just means their sense of fulfillment comes from a different place.
So let's pull all these threads together now and try to reframe this whole thing. We really need to stop looking at solitude as some kind of negative, empty state and start seeing it for what it actually is, a powerful and honestly an essential resource. This right here is the key. Solitude is not an empty room. It's an open workshop. It's not a void that you need to fill up with noise and people. It's a space you can use for creation, for reflection, and for deep, focused work.
Because in that quiet space, amazing things can grow. Creativity. It needs room to breathe. True reflection, it requires quiet. Deep learning demands focus. And self-awareness, well, that's what you find when you finally shut out all the external noise. Solitude is basically the fertile soil for all of these incredible things.
And hey, you don't have to take my word for it. Albert Einstein himself, a mind that literally reshaped how we see the universe, he understood this on a profound level.
He knew that true creativity wasn't born in a loud, crowded room, but was stimulated by the quiet focus that only solitude can really offer.
So if there is one thing, one single idea to take away from all of this, let it be this. The slow, quiet withdrawal of a highly intelligent person is almost never about rejecting other people. It's an act of protecting the one resource they absolutely need to think, to create, and to grow. And that resource is their own mental space.
And that kind of leaves us with a final question to ask ourselves. When you look for time alone, are you running away from something or are you running towards something? Is your solitude just a retreat from the world, or is it a resource you're using to build your own world from within?